Hello, my name is Eric, and today I'll be commentating on the build I just released. So this build is called House of Skin, and it originally was made, God, I want to say like close to 10 years ago. I did the line work, but it's from the campaign that's currently the main campaign, Everlasting Grudge on D&D on the channel. But this campaign has had so many false starts that we've never gotten past a certain point where you would see any of these maps that I've been releasing. So hopefully soon though, we will actually get to the rest of this. I plan on, well, that is why I am playing alone on the channel. Unless by the time you're seeing this, I found other people to play with. But even then, if I do or don't have people to play with, I'm gonna play by myself just so progress doesn't halt every fucking couple weeks, you know, because of reasons. None of which are caused by me. But anyway. So the idea behind this place was that it was located in some continent that is run by like criminals. Everything is run by criminals. So of course this place is like a real bougie place you can go to, and you can go see a show or make a purchase of various things. But yeah, that's why, I mean, I'm working on so many of these maps, because pretty soon we're probably going to end up coming to these. And that's like my favorite thing, is that I could spend all this time making these maps, but if we never go to them, or if we never spend that much time there, it doesn't matter to me in the slightest. I'm just happy that if we do see it, it'll be like really nice, and if people do spend time there, then they'll really enjoy it. So this wall texture, when I was making maps cooperatively with my friend JD, he sent me this link to this texture, this pink wall texture, when I showed him where to like find textures, I guess. Yeah, he just said like, oh, check this out. And I was like, whoa, that's actually not bad. I know a place that I could use that for. And then 2 or 3 months later, I use it in this map, and I think it works really, really well considering the area that it's located in. It's like the entire continent is like basically a desert, so I think it's very fitting for the place. And then here you can see that this is probably the first part, or the first time that I'm ever using textures against one another to make the outer wall look like the outer wall and the inner wall look like something completely different. I've always wanted to do that. I just never, to be honest, I was just really lazy, and I figured people can understand that the outside wall doesn't look like the inside wall. I mean, you were using your imagination so far, right? It's just not much more of a stretch. I figured for this room, it had to be looking really cozy and nice, because it's like the main reason why this building exists in the first place. So the showroom's got to look tip top. Yeah, I keep making, like, I save the door assets as like the thinnest possible, and then later on, I stopped making just walls stop and then putting doors and then continuing the wall. Now you can see where I just put a straight wall and then put the door in the wall and then increase its thickness so that way it sticks out on both sides. And that's because one, it's easier, but two, it has a lot less assets on the board for your computer to load and have to manage and shit. So like, the less assets I can have that are, not just redundant, then the better. I can put more other assets. I think later on I put like paintings and stuff, because I haven't really, like, when I made the hotel, I over decorated and it just made my computer fucking chug. And my computer's not that great. I mean, it's pretty good, but like not the best. So I'm like, well, if my computer can barely run it, then I'm sure other people are gonna have an issue too. And the whole reason why I even make these maps in the first place is because I don't like having maps that I like to use where everything in them requires assets from tons of other random places, and some are like hyper complex, tons of polygons, super like defined, and some are just really simple. I wanted to keep mine all kind of uniform and just generic, that way they can fit into any tabletop role-playing game. Hence why it's just so easy and nice to use the same bookcase between Shadowrun and D&D and doors, making them as universal as possible, just so I had less work for me. And it looks nice and you get the idea. It's detailed enough to know what it is, and not too detailed where it can only fit in so many places. But yeah, because way long time ago in the past, I would load up maps from like the workshop where they were just kind of like cobbled together from assets, were just cobbled together from like tons of different other workshop uploads. So it would take forever to load. And then, over time, for whatever reason, links would be dead or things would be moved around by other people who made the originals. So, you'd be fucked. You'd be like, well, that's just like you get all these like red error code text that pops up every time you load the map. And I don't like that. Aside from the fact that I like making all my own stuff for the channel, for people to use, I don't know. I lost the train of thought, but I don't like using other people's stuff for that reason and others. It's just like, one, it's not mine, and I don't want to ask permission or worry about that, considering that eventually I will probably monetize all these. We'll see how that goes. But, it's my own thing. And again, it's all centralized in like one place from me. And if it doesn't work for you, then that means it doesn't work for me, and that's a problem. So if there's ever an issue, it's always going to be fixed. Like, no matter what, it's going to work. If it doesn't, then all my maps fail. So like, yeah, I'm going to do my best to pretty much make sure like this stuff stays around forever. And yeah, and like I always have backups. So like, God forbid a cataclysmic event happens, everything will be put back somewhere, hosted somewhere to be used again. So I'm very, very careful about that. Hence why, yeah, I don't like stealing. I don't like borrowing other assets from other people as well. That's another reason why I ran into that in the past, playing Dungeons and Dragons with friends in person, and it was just so embarrassing when half your assets would just get the red error code and they wouldn't load and shit. And yeah, I wasn't about it. And I'm jumping around so much with the topics, but I want to talk about this right now. So for a long time, I was never comfortable making staircases in my maps. And the ones you do see, my earlier maps, they're shit. So today I was like, I didn't even plan to make a second floor. And then I was like, it'd be cool if there were more rooms. Because this is like a big place to be in the city that it's located in. It's a big deal. So it's gonna have a lot of business. So I figured, okay, I'll make a second floor, and I'll make a cool staircase. This is a staircase I've never done before. On top of the fact that I don't like staircases, but after this build, I've become way more comfortable with staircases, way more comfortable. And jumping topics again, you can see how my build process goes. Is I'll work on one area, start it, get about like a quarter of the way through, and then stop, and then go on to something else. And I think it's because I like, bored is the wrong word to use, but my mind wanders, I guess. So because technically, like, I'm multitasking the entire time, and people are just shit at multitasking. No matter how many people say they are good at it, humans fucking suck at multitasking. So, but I am like the biggest offender of that. I've noticed that in my daily life, but I'm sure I'm good enough to where others probably wouldn't notice. But anyway, so this whole map is like a multitask for me. So like, if I ever just get sidetracked or I don't want to deal with something, I'll just switch to a different area in the map, like that I know I could probably complete in a shorter amount of time. And then while I'm doing that, I'm thinking about what to do for the other one, or, you know, just to refresh my mind, give it a rest as far as like these stairs. And that's why I switched off, because fucking stairs intimidate me. But I think this is by far my best work of stairs in any of my maps. Aside from the one that's literally just a fucking staircase. That one I'm also very proud of. That was like the be all end all, like, okay, I need a stairwell. Excuse me, I need to drink some water. I was like, I need a stairwell that will just work, because all these maps I'm building, you know, it's like skyscrapers and whatnot. I don't ever really know how to squeeze in a stairwell, you know what I mean? So I just made the unlimited stairwell that could be used for anything, you know? And that was fucking perfect. Absolutely perfect. Sadly, I haven't been able to use it in any of my games yet, because I'm focusing on D&D first and foremost, and then Shadowrun will come second. I fucking love Shadowrun so much. So much. Clearly, if you haven't been able to tell from the aesthetics of the channel, cyberpunk, futuristic, you know, it's my shit. And anyway, you can see here where I'm bouncing all over the place. I'm trying to talk about the map while just kind of randomly talking about other shit. Another thing that I wondered myself, if other people wonder about my maps, excuse me, is I tweak every object I put down instead of just copy pasting, flipping, and expecting it all to line up and work perfectly. Like, for instance, if I wanted to flip those couches to the other side symmetrically, you would imagine I could, right? But from my experience, it actually takes a significant amount of, like, less time to just manually put in each and every piece. Because if you try and just put like the whole, you know, copy flipped 3 different pieces, not everything lines up perfectly. You find yourself spending way too much time trying to line up one side of the 3 object line of things, and then looking at the other side, making sure it lined up. And, you know, then you got to make sure if the middle piece lines up. And more often than not, it's not going to line up, because I find that there's like hundreds of teeny tiny things that are offset in all of my maps, and trust me, the smallest thing fucking irks me. So it's things so small that you really don't notice unless you like seriously look extremely hard, and even then it's going to be impossible to really tell. But it's because if you look at the bottom left of the screen, whenever I'm moving like the XYZ axis things and the positions, between every point of a position that something can be on its axis, there's smaller increments that aren't actually counted. For instance, like you can move something from like 1 to 2, or there's even like 0.1 or like 1.78. like 1.78, 1.79, there's like 3 or 4 places it can be between those 2 points of movement, which is crazy. That's why a lot of these things, when I even try and line them up, if the first initial one isn't lined up with the x-axis on just a flat number, like punch it in manually and hit enter and don't touch it, if it's not done in the first place and I'm copying and pasting to try and line everything up with that, then it's never going to be exact unless I go in manually and adjust everything from that. And oftentimes I forget to do that. So same with like these carpets, if I just typed in a number and then done the other ones, I wouldn't have to do them all manually. Sometimes you get lucky and you can, but like for instance, I'm all over the place, but you see how the grid is on the table? Well, to put an item in the perfect place where it's just below the grid but not below the floor, it's an increment between increments that aren't actually, it's not something you could type in and just hit enter and make it shift to that position. So more so when there's an object acting as the floor of the table and not the actual table itself, it's a pain in the ass. And even then, it's kind of like splitting hairs, because you can find one to punch in, but I like it better when, and it's weird, you kind of really only notice whenever you're building maps, but it's like the lines, the grid becomes darker, and that's like the sweet spot that I like. It makes no fucking difference as far as I can tell. It's just like I want everything to have that darker grid when I'm positioning. But anyway, so these stairs, right? With the carpet, I wanted to have run up them. I made it like this weird orange color, and I immediately knew that was wrong, and it looked fucking gross. But I was like, you know what? It'll go with like the color of the texture of the building itself. You know, we'll go for like a more just different than red. You know, different other worm color, I guess. And I was like, you know, that'll be different, because red carpet I put in like all my maps. Like most carpets I put down when it's just like a flat block. That's not an actual carpet, I guess. It was just like a deep red. This one looked like shit, so I was like, you know, I'm just gonna switch that back to the deep red, because that one just looks the best. You know, it says it all. It's fancy, it's a nice place. But the orange just bugged the shit out of me so much. I couldn't handle it. See, you can already tell I'm way more comfortable with this staircase because I'm putting fucking carpet on it and shit. And yeah, before this build I would have been like, nope, just one block. But I'm like, no, let's do 2 wide with the carpet and fucking have it split. And later on, I'm about to add like I had the idea right here to have like the balcony doors, so I can have a balcony. That was never, again, like planned. Nothing's ever really planned out with my maps whatsoever. I'll have like one good idea, which is like the stage, and then go from there as I build. This one, again, like had so much evolve into it. Yeah, it evolved into a lot over time. I mean, I ended up adding a second floor and these fucking stairs. I'm sorry. I'm gonna, while we're on the topic for this one video, I'm just gonna praise these stairs because I really like them. And I already have some other ideas for stairs that I want to do in future builds that are like really out there. With like these objects right here, the dressers are really thin because I want to have enough space between the bed and the couch, but normally they're thicker than that. And some instances you have to make the sacrifice of having something stick out and be 3D and just make it like pretty much as thin or as flush with the wall, so that way character portraits can walk around them. And initially it bothered me a lot to make that sacrifice, but now it doesn't bother me at all because, excuse me, because you don't really need to have that shit fucking stick out, in all honesty. Because once you can see it, it's there, right? Like, that's all I really need. There's not like this really weird space where you're gonna need to be able to, you know, have it take up in the board, where you really want, I don't know, I'm fucking trying to explain something that's so over-explain something that's just so fucking simple and stupid. Basically it's like, look, if you see it, it's there, and your brain fills it all in for you. It's a fucking dresser, it's fucking there, whatever. But if there is extra space that can be filled, by all means, I usually make it appropriately thick. I don't make it like thick for the sake of being thick and take up too much space. And look at this. I'm really, really happy how these railings turned out. I swear to God, I thought I was a fucking genius when I figured this out. That's what I love about making all these assets. Excuse me. Is that I want everything in my maps, or like 99.9% of everything in my maps, to be made from things from Tabletop Simulator and not from other people, or like 3D assets and shit like that. Simple. I want it all to be simple but effective, and I think these railings are like the epitome of that, because they can fucking do everything. I made them one time. You can change the color on the fly, and they're perfect. They're absolutely perfect. And look, here's where I took a break and spent the probably 2 hours and 30 minutes making new assets, because I was like, well, this place's walls look a little too bare, so I went out and found pictures, and then I made them into paintings. I put like a brown border around them. Made them into paintings, which took a while, because some of these places where you get like royalty-free, copyright-free photos, in the descriptions, you gotta be careful. In the descriptions, even though it says it's licensed under the, you know, totally free, totes go for it, dude, license, people will put, no, you gotta link, if you use this picture, link it to my Instagram or link it to my website, blah blah, in their little description. So for this particular instance, I had to be very careful about that, just because that's when I noticed it. I was like, what the fuck? No, there's like a million other fucking pictures on here that I can use. I'm not gonna fucking do that every time. You're fucking insane. Which is nice, and I love that. It's like, if anyone ever has any beef with anything that I put up, which would be fucking absurd, but it's really nice to just swap out. It's like, okay, really? Okay, well, I will just change that link, and then the game's so nice that like, oh, this link matches every other thing that's linked to the map. Would you like to update everything simultaneously? You just say, fuck yeah, and then all the work is done for you. So it's like not an issue if that ever does arise, but I highly doubt it will not arise. But you never know, people are fucking psychos. Which is why I play D&D alone when I have to. Which is not something I'm like ashamed of or find it difficult. I'm actually really excited to do that more. It's interesting experiment that I'm putting myself through. That's, I don't know, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Trying to be completely, you know, keeping everything separate, but also like flow together at the same time. It's fucking incredible. If you like have that mindset and you don't really care about worrying about juggling all that shit, it's great. And you know, by the end of the day, all you're trying to do is just tell a story. And for me, it's not so much like improv with D&D. It's like I'm trying to play D&D first and foremost with like heavy RP and all that. Just like sometimes some series you watch, it's like clearly just improv featuring D&D. You know what I mean? But I won't get into that right now, because I do enjoy them. It's just not personally for me when I am actually playing myself. But I do play games where that is the case, like Fiasco, I think, is a big one. If you ever played that, I highly recommend it. Here's where I'm fucking with the staircase and sitting on the staircase, and simple fix is just, if you're ever trying to stand under something, just turn off auto raise and you can adjust your lift height ever so slightly if you need to, and then you're golden. For most people, I'm pretty sure they'd be like, that's a pain in the ass, but I think when you spent like fucking thousands of hours in this game, it's just not an issue whatsoever when you need to make a quick adjustment, and that seldomly ever happens anyways. But you know, maybe in the future I'll make more maps where it's a lot more dynamic with stuff going overhead, but we'll see. I always make sure to test it out myself before putting it up on the workshop, because excuse me, because if you've noticed, I use that cop portrait little character as, there he is, as like my scale to make sure things are the right height when I'm putting them down. And he also is a universal guy. If I need to check if like people can fit there, I'll put like 4 of them back to back and make sure that people can actually walk around comfortably there. I think that's a big part of map making, is also taking the steps to make things look nice and fit, but also, you know, making sure that character tokens or whatever portraits can walk around with relative ease. Yeah, while not having to adjust their size. That's the idea, at least. Ooh, so that asset right there, it's like 3D because it was a PNG or whatever, and it was really intricate. For whatever reason, if you don't put the width like overextended, it takes a huge horizontal slice out of it. That's just something I noticed. So they're just, not that it matters in the game. Once in the game, anything excess space-wise around the edge of the picture, it just goes away. It just makes it into the object. So those are really cool to work with. I found those and I was like, holy shit, these are fucking gorgeous. And it came in like a set of 3, and I was initially just gonna use 1, but then I figured I could definitely squeeze in all 3 and make it look really pretty. Like that one above the balcony, it's thick enough to where it sticks out on both sides, so you can see it from inside and outside. So that was really cool. And here is where I am copying the entire first floor. Boom. And I put it upstairs. And I think I even go to the trouble of making sure it's like accurate height with the staircase for the most part. Yeah, I lined it up, and then this part, doing this is always sketchy, but lucky for me, I did a lot of really good alignment work on the base level, so putting it up on the sky was a lot less of a headache. I didn't have to go and readjust every single wall like in the past. I had to do that. But see, even right now, there's still a lot of double, triple checking, making sure things lined up and rooms are in the appropriate sizes. And again, with this, you're never going to be exact and perfect. at least for my methods. I don't know if there's like a better method, but yeah, like nothing's ever like perfect, but it's pretty fucking close. Speaking of which, see that in the top left corner, that little die cat thing that just passed by? Yeah, you can see I'm just trying to talk about stuff. I made that a while back, and that I'm also really proud of as well. That one turned out really nicely. Spent like a whole 2 days working on that one. That was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Which is really encouraging to think about, because all the shit that I do for the channel and everything, it is extremely fun. I try and get an early start whenever I start working, when I have the days for it, and then I just try and pour as much time as possible into it, and the time just flies by because, you know, cliche, but it's like, yeah, I am having like a lot of fun with it. So I make sure to take breaks and whatnot as I'm building and making stuff and doing stuff, but it never gets old. Fingers crossed that stays that way, because it's a lot of fun. Then again, I think I've always been like this. Always been like this my whole life. Like, you know, when I play the Sims games, I cheat for money day one, build a really nice house, and then when I let my Sim start living there after spending like a week making the fucking house, excuse me, I noticed that the Sim is like not living in the house the way I would like to live in the house. And then I'm like, you know, fuck this game, and I turn it off. And it's gone on like that for years, where I'll boot it up, the latest Sims game, and then build a really nice house, and then just fucking delete the game a day later. So yeah, it's a huge time sink. But yeah, like every game that I've ever been able to like customize houses or whatever, stuff like this where you can be creative and just kind of make it on the fly, it's just so good. You have so much control over what you can do. I like this touch right here. I put the top of the fox painting through the black void that leads downstairs, so you know the continuation. You know what I mean? It's clever. And then here's where I decided that I wanted to shorten up these rooms and not have it stick out, because here's where I decided that I wanted like that ballroom or banquet hall, whatever it's called. Over here, I still had no idea what I needed and wanted to do, but I knew that there needed to be a kitchen, and I knew that I wanted it to where the kitchen would have to walk through various rooms to get to wherever they needed to go. And it's a shame the place is so small, but I would have it have a longer way to get to places. For instance, for this top area, I kind of wanted to go for like, it stuck with me, like when the developers of like the new Hitman games came out, they were like they're talking about level design, and the way they design their levels is like never stop the player, always leave more than like one way to go in and out of an area, and have them all like interconnected to a degree, so that way the player's never stumped. They're always constantly moving and flowing. So by far not the case with my map here, but I was like, I wanted to have a bigger area to where like more rooms were connected by these various doors, like redundant doors. I see that in a lot of certain buildings that are like fancy schmancy. They have like just so many like 3 doors for one room and shit. And it's all just so interconnected. Yeah. And it makes sense. I wouldn't want to fucking run around a house where I gotta always be taking the goddamn one street to get anywhere, you know? Especially the house is so fucking big. But that's kind of what I want to do. And again, the place is a little too small to really achieve that. But I kind of did that a little bit. That'll come up a little bit later. But I think when I'm building, I'm always also comparing it to two different aspects, which is like real life and then like the role-playing game, where it's always nice to have areas in role-playing games where like they're harder to access, but you know, then that's when the players got to be creative and figure out a way to get into a place that's not just going through a different door or a different window. Not all the time, but sometimes you know. And then of course the first thing is I'm gonna put this water bottle down. That in real life, not every building is designed that way, where you can just get to any which place you want to. And if you want to get around, it's gonna be fucking hard. Especially if like there's people there who are there to make sure that you do not go to a certain place if you don't belong there. Again, it's not a hard rule for me. It's just something I think about. And here you can actually see me making the upgraded like pool, I guess, or hot tub, jacuzzi, water holder thing. If you ever notice that these hot tub walls are like kind of skewed on the edges, they don't line up perfectly, I want to say it's because when you combine or group or like link objects together in this game, if there's like too many or if the game just doesn't like it, it'll connect them, but it'll make them like ever so slightly skewed, or they'll look fine. And then when you start to manipulate the object, like the size or length or what have you, it really shows, which you can actually see it later on when I put like the big long one in like the swimming room, it's called. It doesn't line up perfectly with the lines, but this little tub thing's always been kind of weird anyway as far as lining up with lines, because it was never intended to do that in the first place, as far as like being inside of it, because it's supposed to just look nice and people can like jump around and play in it and whatnot. But I don't know, I figure people are smart enough to just kind of like figure out their own little workarounds as far as calculating space and distance inside the tub. So what I'm trying to say is people aren't stupid sometimes. I'm just kidding. I'm thinking about select people that I know, and I'm making these wide, broad statements. But I mean, I sound really bitter. What the fuck? I'm not. It's just when it comes to people like ruining tabletop role-playing games for me, it's like, it irks me to no end. But anyway, that time has come and gone now, because like I said, when I can get back into it, I plan on pushing the series forward regardless of who's at the table. And yeah, that's another thing. I'll explain it later in like a podcast that kind of explains all that's happened. But let's touch on it very lightly. It's hard to play. It's hard to role. It's hard to role play like Sershan, for instance, because he's always so happy. So it's hard to play someone like that when, for the past little bit. my life hasn't been in the best shape, but I think I've, crossed the midway point and I'm on the upswing. But yeah, I love playing Sershan. I miss playing him. It's just like there's no way I could possibly play him back then, even if I was able to play, because there's just so many things that like went wrong that were like it was completely out of my control. Anyway, back to this. Yeah, I'm just putting more paintings. Again, I didn't want to over decorate because I think I put like 2 paintings per room downstairs, but upstairs I just put 1 painting because I remember that one time I was back in the hotel and I put way too much shit, and it was just like was a horrible experience to use. So I'm trying to keep it minimal as well. And that's another like principle to my like design, I guess, as far as making maps, is that you want to keep it as minimal as possible. That way everyone who wants to use your map can. Because I mean, years ago I had like a not so good computer and I was trying to play these really nice maps, but it would just chug really badly and be so terrible and a slog to sit through. So I wanted to make sure that my maps could be played on the vast majority of people's computers or laptops, because even I use my laptop when I'm playing D&D in real life. I'll hook it up to a projector and stuff, so it's got to be able to run these maps. And I'm sure down the line, I'll push the envelope for sure. But yeah, don't want to put too much bullshit though, because that's just embarrassing. If someone's ever like, your map's great, but I can't fucking use it, it's like, that's not what I want. I want everyone to use these maps. They're fucking lit. You see, these rooms didn't get a mirror. They didn't get a window, so I just put a mirror. That always makes a room look bigger, right? And I did not put windows in the bottom floor, but can I put this water bottle down? God damn it. All right. So I didn't put windows on the bottom floor because this place is supposed to be like a private place, and it's supposed to be somewhat difficult to get into. So I didn't want a bunch of windows where people can just walk around and like break into or look inside of off the street, because it's not, like I said before, it's not in a nice place. Like the entire continent is just a horrible place to live. So such is their lifestyle, they're all in the crime life and they all fucking love it. So I figured it would make the most sense to not put too many windows, especially in like the more private areas on the first floor. But the second floor, I put a lot of windows, like as many as I fucking could, within reason, of course. Again, here's another great example of me using stuff that looks extremely nice, but it's from the game. That stage is just a chessboard turned upside down, and the texture on that looks fucking gorgeous. So gorgeous. And yeah, and I'm not a 3D modeler and stuff like that. So if I was, I'm pretty sure I'd make my own assets and, do that. Absolutely. But I know that it would also take a lot more time to do. So I probably end up wouldn't do that even if I could. But I find the challenge of making ordinary board game stuff that just comes stock with Tabletop Simulator and making it into something else entirely. I made cellos and violins with just the cube and the little pawn. I don't even know. It's like a little token, like meeple. I don't know what they're called, but it's like the most basic fucking board game piece that represents a person. You know what I mean? With this game, you can just shape it to any way you want, and then stick a fucking cube in it, and then link them together. Now they're one piece, and there you go. You got yourself a violin or a cello, and it looks nice. And you know, it doesn't need to be like these 1,000 polygon high quality goddamn cellos. You know what I mean? That's where you're gonna run into problems where your computer's gonna chug, or it can take fucking years to load the goddamn thing every time you want to boot it up. Nothing against that as far as other people doing that. I just personally hate doing that myself, because I like to be able to, there they are right there if you can see them. There's the 2 violins and then the cellos. I like to be able to jump between maps a lot. So, you know, you have your first version that's saved, and then you make, whenever your players are in it, you make a different version and call it like, you know, player version. And then they can fucking break it and fuck it up and move things around. And then, you know, if they want to go to a different section of the map that's not a part of this save file, you can just save it and then load up the next section really quickly. And say if they like Scooby-Doo and half the team's here and half the team's there in different maps, it's nice because everyone who's connected to the server can easily just jump, you know, load the maps quickly with the person who's hosting, and just jump back and forth between different maps, which I always appreciate. It does its best not to break the flow too much, you know. Everyone's sitting there just waiting while it fucking loads like crazy. So yeah, it's really nice. Here's something else where I needed something to represent like food being out on the table, but I didn't put too much stuff because I knew I was kind of already getting up there as far as I was having an entire second floor. They needed to be like fully decorated, and I'd rather have bigger items to decorate with than like a lot of small stuff on a table. So you get the idea though. There's like supposed to be food there on that table. I just thought it'd be funny to turn like, I don't know what it was. It's not a checker piece, but it's like some other mahjong, or I don't know. But I just colored it yellow and then called it Wheel of Cheese. And the same shape was used for the cake. I just called it cake and changed the color. These are new doors. What I really like. Initially they were just for Shadowrun, because like I don't think these really fit in D&D, but then I was like, no, they look good enough to where, but good enough I mean kind of like indescript, I guess. Yeah, that could be in D&D. Why not? They look really fucking nice, and you know, stretch that dollar. You know what I mean? There's the cop again, trying to make sure people will fit. If it was like a full table of people surrounding each table, then there wouldn't be any issues with the tokens sitting so close to each other. And this is where I got confused here, because I did not count my spaces properly on the left side. So it's obvious looking at it now, but it's like, holy shit. When I was doing this, I was like frustrated, because like I don't understand. It's fucking ridiculous. Oh, the dartboard. Yeah. This room I was really excited to make, because I knew it would look good, and I knew it would be a really cool room to see if you were playing whatever game on this map. And I don't think I ever made a room like this before, to this extent, where it's like a really fancy schmancy, like nice windows, multiple entrances, like lounge, billiards room. But yeah, I'm obsessed with like having everything be a perfect fit when I set it down, because like I said, if I just copy and paste it and stuff like that, which that's what I do, but I don't just assume it'll fit perfectly. Because if I just look at it, immediately I can tell it didn't fit properly into its spaces. So it's always best just to go in and just adjust it to where it fits snugly in its own little area. And then I didn't know what to do with those other rooms even still. And then until about this point, I knew those were going to be sunrooms on either side of the kitchen. And I knew I needed like a dining room. So I was like, okay, dining room connected to the kitchen, because that's usually how it is, I think. Wouldn't make too much sense to have the dining room like really, really far away from the... But, you know, it's not always the case. And these are clearly like initially made for Shadowrun. It's like modern day food shelves. But you know, if you don't zoom in that far, you really can't tell. There's like fucking price stickers on them. But they look fucking great. So, and considering that I'm trying to find everything I use for free, like I'm pretty sure like 99.99999% of everything I use, if not all of it, yeah, all of it is like copyright free, royalty free shit. So coming across all that stuff with like the food where it's like a perfect head on picture that can be used for a texture was a godsend. So I'm not gonna find like a medieval version of that. So I was like, you know what, it's fucking, no one's gonna notice. Like, I mean, they'll notice, but no one's gonna really care. It's gonna look good regardless. There's the throne. I don't know how I feel about it. I know it works really well, but I'm pretty sure I could do a better job with like a fancy chair. But I just haven't had a need to redesign it or make a new one right now, because I don't think I'll make like a fucking another castle or anything for a while. But you know, I'll probably end up making like an evil version. So maybe I'll put like some skeletons or what the fuck. I don't know. We'll see, but I have some ideas if I ever need to make a new one. Those are new too. Those weird like wine cabinet racks things, like that wine glasses are hung upside down and everything and stuff. Because I could tell it was getting a little stale as far as just putting like wardrobes and bookshelves and stuff like that. I was like, I need something new. I need something fresh here. And I got lucky and I found that in my like downloaded folder. So apparently last time before I made this map, just like a month ago, I had downloaded that texture and never put it in the game. So I was like, whoa, this is fucking perfect. Good job, pass me. Like, fuck yeah. So, and here's the example of like the 3 entrances to one room. Oh, that was really cool. That I got to pull it off. Ooh, those are also new. Those fancy dressers. Yeah. Those, see, I had to make those really flat because the chairs made it a tight fit. But make them flat and it's no problem. See, that's a modern day refrigerator I just put in that kitchen. I don't know if anyone's ever noticed in my maps, whenever I put modern day refrigerators in my D&D maps, or fantasy maps. If you mouse over it or look at the description, it says like magic cold box, because the decorated kitchen, I haven't looked into it too much and I don't really care to right now. It's like, okay, medieval kitchen, what can I put in here that I already have that would make sense? And I was like, well, the fridge doesn't make any sense at all. But then again, D&D, they have electricity, planes, trains, and fucking whatever else you want to think, because it's a fucking fantasy game, and hey, anything could be the case, right? Depends who's playing. So I was like, you know what? I'll make it a box or whatever that someone has put the spell like permafrost on, you know? There's a guild of wizards that came up with the idea to just create a spell where they could put it on a box and it will just make it, the contents inside permanently chilled or frozen. So I was like, that's not really far-fetched whatsoever. And it works. So that's my excuse for why they're in my fantasy maps. Yeah. And then here's where I'm trying to make like coffee tables. And I usually avoid coffee tables because of this. It doesn't fit because they're wide and it's a tight room. But then I found a way to get through that, and holy shit. Yeah. It's these other tables I made, which is just a sticker on top of a cube, which is by far one of the best things I ever found out you could do. So you can have the sticker be like a countertop or something, right? And pieces and whatever can actually just walk through it. So the only physical thing there is the base, and you can make that as thin as you want. So, but I also used the chessboard flipped upside down too. Here's that pool room, or the swimming room that I was talking about. Funny enough, the reason why I wanted to put this in was because I was like marathoning Seinfeld on Netflix. And I noticed they go to like the health club a lot or whatever, and they're always going to the pool and the gym. And I don't know if they ever show it, but they're always talking about like some sort of pool. And I was like, oh, you know, it'd be cool if I put like a pool steam room, like, I don't know, locker room with water in it somewhere. So got to put in like the alcohol cabinets, of course, and then put some lockers. But yeah, put some benches. But I knew that would be really cool to have, and this building kind of has it all, you know. This is the first time that I got to make like a half decent library or like study, I guess, where it's kind of like you got to walk through a bunch of bookcases to get to the fireplace. Because that's something that's like on my list of making really, really cool, is making like a really big, intricate library and have like the most beautiful formation of bookcases and whatnot around like a fireplace or a really cool chill hangout area. That's hard to get to because like when I was in high school, or yeah, high school or middle school, I don't know, this is high school, the library that we had a really cool hidden nook area that was like tucked away in the very back corner of the library. So it was really nice to sit around and surrounded by these tall bookcases. Nice feeling. And here's another really great example of making things flush with the wall, is that you can get away with shit like this where it's like floor to ceiling books, but you can walk around really easily. It's really nice. And then of course my double-sided bookshelves for the mid-room spaces is really cool. Because this is like the first time I've ever, I guess, painted a wall with bookcases. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. I don't have to check back with my Royal Palace. I know I have a library in there, but I don't know if I ever made it like, you know, floor to ceiling, like wall to wall books. I don't know. I don't think I did. And then with the space provided, I knew I wanted the couches there, but I also knew that I needed enough space to walk around behind the couches because I wanted like a bar area, stuff like that. So I had to have them pretty tight together, which is fine. It's just, yeah, you gotta make sure everything fits. And just comfortable. If it's too tight, easy bug the shit out of me. And I try and reduce the amount of things that's in the room, but this room turned out really, really well. I was really happy with this study. I call it. It's a study. Yeah, that's another thing I'm really happy about is the suits of armor, which are just made out of cubes. Those are really cool, and those turned out really, really well. Look at there, I am checking to make sure people can walk through the library or the study easily. So I drive the little character token between the bookcases. And then here I noticed that they were too thin. Like if you make objects too thin in this game, see, when you zoom out, like what I'm doing to test, if you zoom out, they flicker a lot, very rapidly. So, and like when you zoom in, they flicker faster, and then when you get close, they stop flickering. So that's why you see me zoom out a lot, is I check for flickering textures. And the reason is because the back is too close to the front where the texture is attached to, so it starts to freak out. But you make them a little thicker like I just did, and it's perfectly fine. And here's where I'm trying to figure out a better texture for the swimming room. And then of course I was like, oh, the bathroom floor texture is perfect for this shit. Like, so perfect. So did that in there. And of course, normally I would just try and save the amount of assets on the board, right? You don't want to put like redundant stuff where it's like 3 different fucking floor pieces to make one floor if you don't have to. So normally I make just like a big square that covers up another room, and then put the room that's covered up that doesn't need to have that texture, I put another piece on top of that. And that's where that increments between increments comes into play, because like what I'm doing here, if there was a floor underneath that, you could just hover it a smidge above the other texture, and there's like zero difference, noticeable difference in elevation when you're like using the map. So that was really cool. Anyway, but for the texture in the pool room though, I had to use 2 because if you stretch it that big, it just looks like shit. So I wanted to make sure that there's 2 and then give it pretty much equal stretch. It worked out well. I put like the L-shaped thing in there. And then we're getting close to the end here. But yeah, I'm just putting some final touches, some paintings on these walls, because the walls look too bare. And they're supposed to be cozy rooms, so I figured, paintings in cozy rooms, right? Yeah, these just make the room, it's like, that makes the room perfect to put these fucking paintings there. So glad I made those paintings. But be ready, I'll probably stop talking as soon as we get near the end here abruptly, because I don't know how to pace myself as far as starting and stopping fucking talking points. Hence why I'm just spending the last couple minutes talking about stop talking, I guess. Any fucking way. And that was the final piece I put in, which I thought was perfect. And here is the completed map. I hope you enjoyed watching this time-lapse video. And yeah, stay tuned for the next one, because I pretty much will always be making these maps. Hell, if you have any suggestions, I don't know if I'll be able to get to them, because I gotta handle my stuff first, but I'm always curious what other people may want to see built or want to have built, because everything I build is shared with the world. Anyone can download it and use it as long as they have the game. But yeah, thank you for watching. My name is Eric, and I hope to see you again soon. See ya.